Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our board chair check-in and update meeting. My name is Marie Newton, and I will be your moderator this morning. In order to avoid background noise, I ask that you please mute yourself if you're not speaking. However, you can unmute yourself if you'd like to ask a question, or you can type it into the chat box. If you have a webcam, we welcome you to turn them on. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and will be archived on CABE's website under Services. And now I'd like to introduce Patrice McCarthy, CABE's Deputy Director and General Counsel.
Thanks so much, Marie, and good morning, everyone. And I'm joined by Lisa Steimer, and we're very happy to see so many of you. We know most of you, but we see a few people that haven't joined us in a while. So I think it might be helpful to the whole group if we go around and give you a chance to introduce yourself. So let's start with Jackie. I'll give Jackie a chance to get organized because you're still muted. How about David? They're not hearing us. Well, that's a problem.
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Hear you.
Some people can hear us.
I can hear you.
Okay, good.
That's okay.
Good. All right. So let's start with Colleen then.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Colleen Clark, I'm the chair of Southington, have been the chair for the past 2 years. Am running for re-election, although it will be my last term. And I've been on the board in Southington for 16 years.
Terrific. Thanks. Jackie?
Yep. Hi, good morning. I'm Jackie Heffman. I'm the board chair in Stamford. And this is my second year as board president. And this is my 16th year also on the board. And I am also running for re-election.
Very good. David? We have connection problems with David. Let's go to Anne.
Good morning, Ann Sweeney, President of the board in Waterbury. I am wrapping up my 18th year and not running for re-election this year. So happy to be here with you. Have invited one of my colleagues from Waterbury to join us this morning so that hopefully we have some continuity.
Thanks so much, Anne, and you will certainly be missed, and your many years of service are greatly appreciated. It's sounding like, from what others have said, that 18 is some sort of magic number, perhaps. So why don't we go to Juanita, your colleague from Waterbury.
Hello, my name is Juanita Hernandez. I'm the Vice President on the Board of Education for the City of Waterbury. Gonna miss Ann a lot. Grateful to be here.
Thank you and welcome. Stephen.
Hi, I'm Steve Aziz. I'm chairman of Weston's Board of Education. I've joined the Board of Education in Weston about a year ago and was elected chairman. I had been the chairman of Weston's Board of Finance before that for a decade.
Well, welcome. Let's see, Anne.
There we go. Good morning.
We're just doing introductions, brief introductions. All right, Tina.
Sorry. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tina Malhotra. I'm chair for Richfield Board of Education. This is my second year. I've been on the board 3 years, and I've still got another 2 years to go.
Well, good. At least you don't have to be out there campaigning.
I know. Oh, trust me, this is not the year. It's been a rough year for election in our town.
Maureen.
Yep, I am the chair in Suffield. I have been a board member for 6 years, a chair for 2 years, and I do not have to rerun right now, and we will make a decision on future in 2 years.
All right. Deborah. Who may not be able to. There you go. Go ahead.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Deborah Kane. I am the chair of the Middletown Board of Education. This is my 8th year on the board, 4th year as the chair, and I will not be running again.
Oh, we're very sorry, but we thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Lindsay.
Good morning. I am board chair for Region 13 Durham and Middlefield. I've been on the board since 2021 and chair since July. So I'm not up till 2025. So I'm still
And another one who is smiling because she hasn't had to be out campaigning.
Yes. Yeah, I feel for all of you.
Bob.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry, my video is not up. I'm struggling with my camera. I'm the board chair in Brookfield, and I've been in the office for 8 years. I'm not running for re-election for this position, but I am out campaigning because I'm running for selectman in Brookfield.
Okay, well, it's always good to have education advocates on the Board of Selectmen, but we will miss you from your engagement with our board chairs. Seth.
Hi, everybody. I apologize. I'm on the road, so I can't show my face. You're probably all the better for it. I'm Seth Klaskin. I'm the chair from Madison. I was on the Board of Ed for about 12 years. Then I was off for a couple of years. Then I was put back on the board in 21 and became the chair. And I've been ever since, and I am running for re-election now. Thank you.
Excellent. Mary.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Mary Powell St. Louis. I'm with Region 18. That's Lime Old Lyme in southeastern Connecticut. And I'm currently vice chair. I am completing my 8th year on the Board of Education. And I am running for re-election, as someone suggested, in a very divisive and polarized race this year, unfortunately. So thank you. I'm looking forward to hearing the discussion today.
Terrific. Kim.
Hello, I'm also on the road. Kim Walker, Westbrook Board of Education. I've been on the board for 12 years. I'm running for re-election unopposed, and I've held various positions from vice chair, secretary, and I've been chair for 2 years now.
Well, that sounds like the best kind of running for re-election, the unopposed kind.
Absolutely.
We have 2 people on the phone. I don't know if they can unmute and identify themselves. 212 number and a 712.
Hi, this is David. You see my picture, but I don't have sound for some reason, so I decided to call in. So I'm in Windsor, Connecticut, and been on the board for 6 years, the last 2 as chair, and running for re-election.
Very good. And our sympathy to everyone in the Windsor community on the loss of your student last week.
Yes, it's been a tough week.
Understood. And we have Conrad and Jody from the CABE staff that are joining us as well. So I promised, I think we hit everyone in our, oh, sorry, Ann.
That's okay. So Ann Kirkpatrick, chair of the Summers Board of Ed. I was first on the Board of Ed in 1978 and was on for 7 years, and then had about a 20-year gap when I was doing superintendent searches with CABE. Went back on the board in 2006 and have been chair since last September. So this is my 24th year on the board. I probably have a screw loose because I'm running for another term, but I'm running unopposed.
Well, that again, a good way to be running. Well, we want to wish you, on behalf of the CABE board and staff, all of you who are running for re-election, we wish you great success. And for those that are leaving board service, we thank you for that service. I apologize because I need to leave at 11:30 because I serve representing CABE on the certification council, We're looking at updating the educator certification regulations in the state. So I need to be at that meeting on your behalf. But let's kick off a discussion about conducting a Board of Education organizational meeting. I'll give you a few of the parameters, and then I welcome you to share your experiences in your communities, any best practices that have worked well for you. You have to begin by looking at your local charter and your Board of Education bylaws to see if there are any specific procedures or if how you conduct elections is really based on past practice. When board members take office varies from community to community. Some newly elected local officials take office the day after election day, and some take office as late as January 1st. So again, that's a local issue. Each member of the board after their election will take an oath of office that's generally administered by the town clerk. Many boards of education do that at their organizational meeting, but it's also perfectly permissible to make other arrangements if someone is not able to attend that first meeting. They can certainly be sworn in at some other time. The election of board officers is required by state statute, and it requires that a meeting be held 1 month after the date on which the newly elected Board of Education members take office. So that's what triggers the timeline for the organizational meeting, the election of officers. The statute requires that a chairperson and secretary be elected. However, many of you do have provisions for a vice chair, and some have some additional officer positions, and that's perfectly permissible, but you have to have a chair and a secretary. Under Robert's rules, a second is not required for nomination of officers, and that votes for the chairman do have to be reduced to writing and made available to the public within 48 hours. Now, many boards have a tradition of a secret ballot for the election of the chair, and that is perfectly permissible, but the ballots have to be signed by the individual. So if you're not taking a vote that can be seen or heard in public, then the signed ballots will enable you to have a record of who voted for which individual. Some boards need to have multiple ballots in order to elect their board chair. And again, that's perfectly permissible. It's just important that you get through this process so that you can conduct the business of the board. I will say that one of the few times that boards of education in most communities caucus is to discuss the selection of a board chair. On the other hand, in some communities, the tradition is that it is, or provided in charter or bylaws, that it is the highest vote getter that becomes the board chair. The role of the superintendent in the organizational meeting does vary, but a number of communities have a practice of the superintendent actually convening that meeting and then conducting the election process for the board chair and then turning the meeting over to the newly elected board chair. And I saw Jody nodding his head, so I'm thinking that his experience in various districts in Connecticut, he got to have that opportunity to chair a board meeting for a short period of time. The one prohibition in terms of conflict of interest in state statute is that you cannot be employed by the board on which you serve. If that were to be the case, your position on the board would become vacant. Now, there's no prohibition on someone employed by the board running for office. So we've had that question many times over the years. That's permissible, but they would need to resign their employment before they were sworn in as a board member. I think that gives you the overall picture. We have a 2-page handout that we mail out about 10 days before the election to every member district. We can get it out we can put it on the board chair listserv sooner than that. We particularly find that the superintendent's administrative assistants are the people that look to us for guidance on this topic, because in many cases, you might have a superintendent in your district that has never been through an organizational meeting in your district. So they might know what the bylaws say, they might know what the town charter says, but they might not know what the practice has been in your community. So I'm going to stop and see what questions or insights you have. Your organizational meetings are a distant memory and you haven't even started thinking about the next one yet. Is that my takeaway from this?
I'll just say what you just described is exactly what happens here in Brookfield. So,
okay.
One question I did have for you, and it's for CABE, is how do you get informed of who the new chair will be so that we can update this group?
Well, I'm going to turn that question over to Lisa. But hopefully we get informed quickly is my response.
Yes, thanks. That's a great question, Bob. And Corey from our office works with the superintendent's administrative professionals to get that information. She is in communication with them, asking them for that information, either for them to update the information themselves in our portal or to share the information with her so she can update it. And in fact, we have a meeting with the administrative professionals later this month, and we'll be setting the table, so to speak, for them to remember that this is something that they're going to have to be thinking about. So that's typically the way that we find out.
I would say to all of you on this call, whether you're running for re-election, whether you continue to serve as board chair, anything you can do to prompt getting that information to us, because the challenge for us is, unless we call every administrative professional in the superintendent's office every day for a 6-week period, but you're becoming a board chair at all different times between election day and January 1st. Or even a little after. If your board members don't take office until January 1st, it might be January 30th before you have a board chair. So anything you can do to help us get that information, we'll be updating the list on a literally hourly basis.
Yeah, I don't know if other districts are like Region 13, but we actually get caught into this, like, because we have some for Middlefield that are elected in May.
Yeah.
And so I actually didn't know about it until another board chair had told me at a CABE conference. So you may want to look to those to really get that information, because those are the ones that might not get updated for months.
Yeah. Thank you for that reminder, Lindsay. That is definitely true. We still do have a number of districts, mainly regional districts, that have May elections. Other kind, Anne.
Yeah, so one comment, we had a very unusual situation 2 years ago that we had 6 out of 9 board members elected, brand new. It's a long story of how that could possibly happen, but not worth going into. But these were 6 well-intentioned citizens for Summers, very young. They all have young kids in the school system, which is great. But we had a lot of people, most of whom had never even attended a Board of Ed meeting. So we had some real education to do. And so one of the things I did when I became chair was I put together a Board of Education handbook to what information do they really need to know that would be helpful. And everything that's in that handbook is public information. So any of that stuff can be actually shared with other citizens. And I'd be more than happy to share at least the table of contents that we put together. When you start doing something like that, it's kind of a work in progress, and we kind of kept adding to it. But you all know what it's like to work with one new Board of Ed member, but try working with 6. And they definitely had an agenda that they learned, luckily, that you don't get in on the board and run the school system. And in that process, we had the new superintendent coming on board, which has worked out great. But unfortunately, even after that, we had changes within the board. One was a medical emergency where one of these new board members had to resign. The other one, unfortunately, was the former chair of the board was arrested for embezzlement, which is a whole different story. And so now we're continuing to have new board members. So one thing I started doing, which has been very beneficial, is I meet with my vice chair, who's one of these brand new board members, to try and develop a relationship with her. And we took a new board member and we set up meeting with the chair, 3 separate meetings, the chair, the vice chair, the new member, and the chair of the budget committee. We had coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. So we're legal. We call it the Board of Ed Annex. And so we had the person of the budget committee kind of explain the process, because again, you've got all these brand new board members and we're doing a brand new teacher contract and a brand new administrator's contract just to add to the complexity of it. Then we had another meeting to talk about the curriculum, another meeting to talk about the policy. We only meet for about an hour, but we've already seen the benefits of this. So I would throw that out as a suggestion if you have any Board of Ed members. It also gives a chance to just develop a relationship, because the only thing we all have in common is we meet every other Monday night. It's a whole different age group. These people are all in their 30s. I'm 79, so I could be their grandmother. So I'll just throw that out, that we've never done that, but we have never done a good job in Summers in all these years with new Board of Ed members, and how can you really mentor a new Board of Ed member? And the investment of one-on-one time has already paid off. So
that's great, Anne. I would ask if you could at least send me the table of contents. That would be great if you would email it to me and I can share it out. And I would suggest that you all and your fellow board members and superintendents pay attention to the upcoming November issue of the CABE Journal, because I took a number of the comments and best practices that were shared in last month's meeting about onboarding new board members, as well as a conversation we had with superintendents, administrative professionals regarding onboarding, put that together for the journal with other tips and suggestions as well. And much of what you mentioned, Anne, is part of that article. I think you ghost wrote it for me. But really pay attention to that, and certainly continue to share ideas, whether it be through the listserv, conversations such as this, because it's so important. It's always been important, but I think it's more important today than ever.
right. And now once we have the handbook, there's a couple things we'll update after the election, but now the superintendent secretary, when we have a new board member, can just produce the handbook. So the work is kind of getting this thing together for the first time.
Right. Lindsay and then Colleen.
I think she makes a really good point. It's something I would have loved to have. Back in 2021, 4 of us actually unseated our chair, vice chair, secretary, and another board member. So we came on to a board that had new leadership and was unable to really onboard us as well. So that made it quite difficult. So I do think it's really important. I'd love to see a table of contents on it and a way to do it. Just as chair, knowing that I could possibly have 3 new next month is big for me. So thank you.
And I call your attention, Nick has put in the chat that there is a webinar this Thursday with Nick is doing with Franklin Covey, looking at enhancing the board chair superintendent relationship. And that's a free webinar that we're offering. You just need to register at the link that's in the chat. Colleen, I think your hand was up.
Yeah, it was. I just want to say, Anne, I wish 2 years ago I had done what you did. I ran into problems when I had, like you, new young members that were elected onto the board who were elected for political reasons. They were in their 30s, still are. And I held caucuses with my newer members because we've never really done a very good job, I feel, with new board members coming on and having them understand what their role is with the district. The reason I say I wish I had done what you did was because right now with the elections coming up, I'm being accused of holding secret meetings. And so it's coming back to bite me because obviously no one likes to be accused. Caucuses obviously are legal. I was trying to educate my new members. And I think your approach, while it may have taken a little bit more time, was far better than mine. So I thank you for that suggestion. And we may have new board members coming on, and I think I'll follow your approach. So thanks for that advice.
Bob.
Be ready to unmute. So we do it similarly, but a little differently in Brookfield. We actually have a practice of having two new board member retreats, and they're scheduled meetings. We do them in November while the old board is still intact and the new board members have not been seated yet, but the whole purpose is to go through a list of topics where we invite them in, and we have each of the committee chairs talk about what they do. We talk about roles and responsibilities. We talk about elections. We have our attorney come in and give everybody a briefing and reminder for the old board members on FOIA. We educate them on where they can find policies and the importance of that. But we also invite in the principals of the school, so they get to start building a bit of a relationship. So they've been very effective for us. But it's an official meeting of the old board inviting in the newly elected members to do it. So I avoid the secret meeting thing because there are people in our town who would love to call us on that as well. For us, it's going to be really important this year because we have 5 of our 7 members are going to be new. So and that's challenging to set up just committees, right? Who's going to chair committees? You can't have the 2 returning members to chair everything. So you're going to put newbies in some of these. The other thing we did at one of our summer retreats is the board asked me, knowing I wouldn't be running again. We've known that I declared that at the last election, that this was going to be I was going to do 2 terms and that was it. They asked me if I would play an official mentorship role as a departing chair. And so that I'm always available to 2 members. If they want to ask a stupid question that they didn't know the answer to, they can call me up and I could walk them through what's going on, and apolitically. And I will make that offer to them all, as once they're elected. So it's it's just a couple of techniques we use.
Thanks for that, Bob. I'm going to call on Tina, and then I'm going to leave this meeting in Lisa's very capable hands. I know at some point, probably Lisa and Nick will talk about the professional development that CABE makes available for your newly elected board members. So Tina.
All right. Thank you, Bob. Actually, that gave me a really good idea. Sorry, I'm at work, so I missed a little bit of it, but I think many of you mentioned this. It's been really tough politically this election. And last year, even our caucus caused so many problems, even though we're allowed by law to have caucus. It's bad. It's just bad. Even me becoming chair was bad. We actually had the biggest fight about vice chair and secretary. And let's just say this board is really divisive. So currently we 4 will stay on of 1 political party and 5 are rolling off. There's a lot of drama about what is happening. They're not touching that. But what we did this year, so what I tried to do this year to build consensus is, first, I invited each board member to meet with the superintendent and me to share their ideas, their thoughts about, how we can work this, how we can move forward. And then we had a first board retreat in August, end of August. And what we did at the board retreat is we had our attorney there so that, it was a meeting in public. Of course, we had one agenda, and that was we had each board member suggest topics they felt that the board should be addressing. And we mentioned that this will be aligned with the district goals and the board goals, which we hadn't developed, which we were going, they had been voted till 2023 September, so we were supposed to vote on it. knowing very well that we will lose a lot of historical knowledge. So as of now, I will be the only board member with 3 years with the most historical knowledge. Also, I mean, it helps that I was PTA president for years and stuff like that, but most of the other board members are not involved. So they're brand new, political and not a problem. So that was something we did. And what helped our board is each board member had ideas. And I'm just going to throw them, talking about art, or art teachers has been big. Later school times has been really big in our district. So, all these came up. We put it in 5 different buckets, if you will. So it was strategic planning, or it's curriculum, or like art, VPA came up under curriculum. So we put those on. And what I did is I brought it back to the next meeting, and the entire board, the full board meeting discussed if it aligns with the district goals, because the superintendent had already shared her district goals. If it aligns with this, it is something the board will like to bring up on an agenda item, where, how, when, if it has any financial implications, like if it's going to come up in budget earlier than later. Class sizes is another topic that's going on in our town. We have guidelines. We don't have a hard break rule. So our guidelines are mostly to give the superintendent, the superintendent, the building leadership to do the best they can, depending on the class. And physically, we don't have enough space. So we did that. And all this time, I've been very careful to have our lawyer present there. The only reason we've done this is because this is a very tough board I'm dealing with, and it's a very tough election season. And the reason we've had our lawyer at these 2 or 3 meetings is so that she can answer these questions. But I think, Bob, you brought up I love your idea, because one of the questions that was mentioned by the outgoing members is all this information they have, right? We've had our policy chair who's chaired our policy for 3 years. There's a lot of data. She's done a whole audit. There's a whole field. There's everything available. So how does she pass on that knowledge? I don't even know who's going to chair policy at this minute. I mean, honestly, I don't know if I want to be chair of that board. I mean, that's an aside. But so anyway, all this knowledge and how we can transfer it to a new board. And I know somebody just mentioned we have teacher negotiations going on. We are just in the middle of our administrator negotiations. We have so many bargaining units that are coming up, plus a budget that's coming up, plus new hires. We have new administrators, new principals. So your idea, I think, was great. I think I'm going to do the same thing in November. As the outgoing board is leaving, the mentorship program, the mentorship board came up. We just didn't know how to legally work it, because a board can only meet in a public setting. I'm very careful of not meeting anyone unless it's one-to-one and the superintendent present. And that is about the ideas, not discussing board topics at all. So I do appreciate that idea. I think I'm going to take it back to our lawyer and to the board at our next meeting and suggest that. So I really thank you for that. I think that's a great idea. I'm going to try to see in our meeting schedule how that works out. But I do think that was a great idea. So I really appreciate it.
They work really well. They really work well. And actually, the most important thing I learned was getting the lawyer to educate everyone on FOI.
We do that.
These guys walk in the door, they're newly elected, they were on some educational reason they wanted to do it, or a political reason they want to do it, and then they learn what they can talk about and what they can't do. And we also have them talk about FERPA.
We've done that. I bring my lawyer in every 4 months, believe it or not. Even the outgoing members who've been all ever forget that you cannot look at your phone and answer texts from your phone. Like, that is foible. I'm very close to our lawyer. I'm like, can you come to our meeting? Can you just please, can you educate? Because they all need to understand, when they sit at a board table, this is not about your political ambitions or XYZ, whatever it is. This is about all kids. And what I remind to the board, and I think the lawyer does a great part in this, is collectively, we all are effective. It is a board of education. Not each member cannot make promises. So we do bring her in. We will bring her into the new board training. What I've also, for the people who were running, doesn't matter what political party, what your drama is. I know CABE sent off something if you're planning to be a board member, things to look. I sent out that link. I told them the packets. Once they come up, I know there's new board there's the CABE Delegate Assembly. I encourage my board members to go to that, because I think it was the most helpful. I also, everything that CABE sends to, we're having this webinar. I take as many as I can, and I send it to my full board too. I encourage board members to learn. You have to continuously keep educating yourself. So that is another thing I do. But your idea, thank you. I didn't think about the mid thing, but I think that's a great thing. Just add in one meeting while the old board's going and the new board's coming on. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Great, Tina. Thank you so much. And a little later in this meeting, Nick and I will talk about some of the professional development offerings for new board members and also seasoned board members that are upcoming in the next several months. David, your hand is up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It was great to hear from Tina because I feel we're in better shape. I thought we were in bad shape till I sometimes hear others and their stories. We also bring it right after the swearing in. We bring our attorney in to talk about FOIA and the difficulties and the pitfalls there. We're lucky that we only have a few new people who are running. So we did have a number the last time around. So this time we will have a more trained group already. In Windsor, almost all board members, if they can, attend the CABE convention. We encourage them. We ask them early on to try to save those dates, even if, for folks, we don't know if they're going to win or not, but we put that out. And we also talk about the December new board member training, and for people to try to attend that if they can. We're members of CABE, and we feel that we can call on whether it's Nick or Patrice or Conrad to come if we have issues that we think they'll be helpful in dealing with. We've talked about board retreats, but we have not done them in my tenure on the board in the last 6 years, and that's about it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, David. Others? Anne?
Just a quick question. Will there be time during the Friday CABE convention for the chairs to get together?
I'm glad you asked that, Anne, because we are going to have an in-person board chair check-in on the Friday of the convention. It's going to be session D as in David 6, which will meet from 3:40 to 5:15 in the afternoon.
Oh, great.
Rooms have not been assigned yet as far as where things are going to take place, but mark that on your calendar in any way, shape, or form you can. So yes, to answer your question,
a lot of
yes,
us were only there Friday last year, so
right.
I put that on my evaluation form. So thank you. That's good.
Yes. So
the
we
other comment that I was going to make, and I don't know if other people have had problems with this, but with all of these younger Board of Ed members that we have, when they got on the board, none of them went to the CABE workshop. I only have one board member who has gone to any CABE webinars or the sessions. We did have our negotiations chair went to the session, which was excellent, but the mindset is not that they need more, that they need professional development. I don't know if this is just my board or maybe others. If you have, it used to be in the old days, everybody on the Board of Ed always went to the convention, but that isn't true anymore, even though we have money in the budget for it. So I'll just throw that out.
I'm with you. Nobody in my board does anything. Nobody attends anything. It's only me. And I keep telling them, it is the best. You can educate yourself. CABE is a resource. Please use it. Please use it. It always seems that it's me. And I hate to say it, most of our board gets educated from social media, but that's an aside. It's a struggle.
And it's a problem.
It is.
I even have a hard time getting my board members to come to the retreat. You always have the few faithful, but some different party members feel like they do not have to attend, and they don't. And
Yep.
unfortunately, those are the ones who need it.
100%. And they're the problem is, I don't know about the other boards. What's happening in our town is we have board members on social media, and I understand they keep saying as an individual, they can say what they want. But the fact is you can't distance your role as a board member from your personal role sometimes. And it's getting really, there are comments about pays and legalities, and there's just so much to handle. And that's why I encourage these trainings, because you understand, but I can only suggest. The rest is there are 8 other members besides me. So that's all. I mean, it's sometimes frustrating, as I'm sure many of you can imagine.
Tina, do your best to get them to the Saturday, at least, of the convention, because our keynote speaker Saturday morning is going to speak about the board's role in communications. And she is the executive director of the National School Public Relations Association. She also, prior to that, was on staff at the National School Boards Association, as well as AASA, the Superintendent's Association. So she's got that great perspective, but I know that the problem is getting them to the convention. So we'll work on that with you all.
Yeah, I might just give them, like, I'll drive them. I don't know. I'll give them some, I'll just drive them all at this rate. But I really think it's so important, because when I was brand new, even though I had PTA history, I came to the new member convention, and it was amazing. It was so needed, because you suddenly see things from a different perspective. And our lawyer's great, but she's only there for an X amount of hours, right? You need to be able to meet with different people. You need to understand, and the historical knowledge. I mean, I heard from so many, or they're 16, 17 years. There's a whole different mindset if you've been on the board from 16 years to suddenly coming on the board, running for whatever reason. And we have board members who don't even have children in our school. Like, it's a very different perspective. Just, that's it. So, but thank you. I'll reach out to you later.
Oh, please do. Kim and then Colleen.
Thank you. One of the things that I've found that is really helpful is I make, as a standing agenda item, professional development. And that's towards the end of my meeting. This is the opportunity where I will always tout whatever webinars are coming up, whatever meetings are coming up. But it's also the opportunity for each board member who's attended to give a brief summary of what they learned, and as well as share PowerPoints and handouts. So it's a constant learning. And then it also highlights, if even 2 people went to that webinar, there might be a debate, but you forgot to say this, and it just helps. And it also psychologically gets people motivated to want to do more, because now they're being called in public to talk about it. So I find it very helpful. And then the other piece that I do add to that, because I feel it's important, is having board members just report on any activities that they might have gone to, whether it was a baseball game, a picnic at the at the elementary school. So that way we constantly showing school spirit, camaraderie, as well as always highlighting professional development. And so that I found over 12 years has been very helpful.
Great. Thanks, Kim. Colleen and then Ann.
I have a mixed group of individuals on my board. I have one member who has over 30 years on the board. I have 2 members who have close to 20 years on the board. And then I have 4 new board members who have 2 years on the board. So I'm just all over the place. And I must confess, I went to my first CABE convention last year, and I've been on the board for 16 years. What I have found with my folks is that a lot of my older board members don't go to things because been there, done that. That's their attitude. And I find my younger members, because they are parents, because they have young children in the schools, their time is very, very limited. So what I've tried to do is share all the information that, anything that we get from CABE, I know it gets sent to the board members, I'll send it again to them. So by the off chance that they may be able to read what I send them. And sometimes I'll do it in a text message, because I found, and I don't know if this is common, my board members aren't prone to always read their emails from the school. So I'm trying little ways. What I am finding, however, is that if I start talking about things that are going on professional development wise at our board meetings, it's now starting, now that they're a little bit more comfortable being board members, my newer board members are expressing interest in attending things, because I think once they get on the board, they realize, and it's a shock to some of them, they don't know what they don't know. And they need to learn these things. So I think if, at least with my folks, if I'm feeding them information just enough to pique their interest, they are starting to come around. And if they are reelected again in this next cycle, where we're all up for reelection, we may be able to continue that professional development, but it's not easy. I'll be the first to admit it is not easy.
Thank you, Colleen. Anne.
So as part of setting goals this past year, our board decided that as a goal, we would set that each board member participate in at least one professional development opportunity outside of the CABE convention. So we usually have a pretty good attendance, luckily, at the CABE convention. But I think we all think we need to stretch ourselves a little more. So I think if you can get your people to the table for goal setting, and put that professional development piece in, however it, appears for your board, that's important to do. It puts everybody on notice that we're all going to be doing this, and now you're watching to make sure that everybody does. I also am considering making sure that we put our goals into our handbook. We have one also that we started about 2 years ago. So I think it's important to put your board goals into your handbook, where your commissioners or your board members see them each and every time they open that handbook.
Right. Thank you, Anne. Jackie, your hand is up.
Yeah, thanks. So in Stamford, we have a 9-member board, and currently we are 6 Democrats and 3 Republicans. We all take office on December 1st, and we have our organizational meeting the first Tuesday in December, followed by our monthly meeting, and then we don't meet again in December. So it gives the board chair an opportunity to get all the committees formed and get everybody familiar with the work. We also, before our organizational meeting, we caucus. And so there are no surprises going into our organizational meeting. We decide at that point who the officers are going to be. And we try to have at least one of our officers be a Republican. So that's worked out prior to the meeting. We do 3 retreats during the year, which we find to be very effective so that we can get together and talk about the work. The retreat that we hold in December is what we call our onboarding new members and familiarizing our old members with the rules. So we have an attorney come, like many of you, who talks about FOIA. We talk about our ethics rules according to our city charter. And we also, the board chair assigns mentors to all new board members. So who keep in regular contact with those new board members. So if a board member has a question, they have somebody that they can go to get information. And ongoing through the year, part of our agenda, I include a section that has representatives. We have many committees in Stamford that board members serve on, whether it's the superintendent's committees or whether it's our outside community partners where we have representatives, or CABE. Whoever represents the board at any of those meetings makes a report on it every month. So it gives an opportunity for all board members to be involved. And so the members of the public also have a chance to know who the board members are. And I find that to be effective. Luckily, this year we'll only have 2 new board members coming on. So I feel for you that have a lot of new board members, because it really does become very difficult to manage. And I hope that that's helpful. But we find that the retreats that we have ongoing during the year is the most effective way to keep board members involved and everybody on the same page.
Great. Thank you, Jackie.
Mhm.
Tina, I see your hand raised, Tina.
Yes, very quickly, I just wanted to add, we also do the same. We have, so when I do the chair report, I actually share each professional development opportunity, the links to it, remind them who's gone. And if any board member has gone, I do highlight that, because, you know, you're like, if you're publicly sharing, X did it, hopefully the Y will. We also reach beyond CABE. You know, there's something, I remember we had diversity training a few months ago by CCM. We did that. I did that. I encouraged my board. So there are bits and pieces that you're all sharing that we've been doing at our board. We also have committee reports. So we have various committees, and I encourage that. So we have each, I don't chair anything. I make sure each board member does chair a different committee, because I think it gives them a little ownership and they feel proud of the work they're doing. So they all share that. We also have a PTA report. We have at RHS, we have a child or a RHS, our high school representative, who comes up and shares all the things that are going on. And the PTA person shares everything that is going on with PTAs. And I or any of the board members encouraged to go to each PTA council meeting if they so invite us, because I think it's so important to have those community relationships. I also, that is me personally, I sit on different town commissions and I share those reports. So I'm trying to encourage the board, but one of your ideas are really like the new board members. So the mentorship is a great idea. I like the November, but I also like this new onboarding retreat in December, because that's something we haven't done. We've done one, you know, in like after the budget season, and then when we've done in August. But I think because we're having such a huge turnover, I really appreciate this idea. So thank you for sharing that.
Great. Anne, and then I'm going to ask Nick to share some information about field service opportunities, but Anne?
Okay, I'm going to take off because I have another meeting. So just hope to see some of you at the CABE convention, and thank you for all the great suggestions.
Great, thank you, Anne. Hang on, Nick. I'm going to back burner you just for a minute, because I see David had his hand up, and Colleen and Tina. I don't know if your hand is still up or if that's new. But in the
I was just waving bye to Ann.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you, Colleen. You had your hand up. No,
Me
you're
too. I was just
bye.
waving.
Oh, okay.
Just waving to Ann.
Okay, then Nick, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about field services a bit.
Certainly. This will promise to be the busy time of year again. Every 2 years when we have elections, we start getting calls. On top of all the other opportunities you have for professional development, the new board member training in December, the convention, we also, because we recognize, as some of you have said, it's hard to get people to be able to go out because they're busy people, we'll come to you. I mean, that's kind of why I exist at CABE, is to come to you. And I see a lot of familiar faces. I know I've done work for many of your boards, but new board member training, roles and responsibilities, goal setting. I love the idea of using goal setting for more than just goals, but to help build the board together. You know, there's lots of different opportunities, board retreats, which, I mean, Bob, I remember being in your backyard a year ago, which was the best setting. Maybe you could rent the place out for your neighbors. But we are here to serve you in any way possible. If you're interested in having CABE come out, whether it's to just get ahead of things by, 2 weeks ago, I was with a district where they had a brand new superintendent, and he wanted to start the ball by, let's talk about communication. Let's talk, he was replacing a long-term superintendent, and they had set ways in the way they did business together. And he wanted to make sure that whatever they did as a group would work. So we spent the evening talking about how the board and superintendent would interact and how they would govern together or lead the district together. So we are always here. And again, if you're thinking of something for just before or just after the election for training, my only suggestion is that you call soon, because the calendar's starting to fill up and it gets frustrating, especially I've reached a point where there's only 7 districts in the state I have not worked with. And I'm desperate to get to everyone. Not that this is soon, but before I retire, I want to have been able to work with every board in Connecticut. So if I got a call today and said, what are you doing next Tuesday? It might be frustrating for all of us, but put something on the calendar, even if you have to cancel it later. We're here for you, and we want to do what we can to help you be successful as board chair, help your board be successful, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll stop.
Great, Nick, thank you so very much. And before I move into just some of the things that are upcoming to help you and your boards as far as professional development, Lindsay asked a question in the chat just about do some districts pay for or budget for participation in the CABE CAPS convention versus people having to pay out of their pocket. So maybe a show of hands of those districts that budget for professional development and the district pays for it. Okay. Versus those who pay out of their pocket. Okay.
I'm going to actually look into it because I'm not sure if the line item, I know that we have most of our professional development with CABE covered, even when I log in, but I'm wondering if we have anything in there, because I know I have board members that don't want to go because it's just too expensive.
Right.
So.
Right. Okay. Ever so quick.
I know that, I'm sorry, I know that
That's
I'm
okay.
not visible, but we also budget and pay for, and we're fortunate to have 5 members going this year.
Terrific. We look forward to seeing everybody there. So just very quickly with upcoming opportunities for you all, actually next week, next Tuesday, we have our legal issues workshop, which will be held in Middletown. You can go to our website to register for that. Conrad's got a great program planned, so thank you, Conrad, for getting that together. November 29th, we're providing a webinar. Conrad and Patrice are doing it on religion and schools. I think that's very important, particularly for our newer board members. But information will be coming out about that as well as the link. Share it. Sometimes your central office staff is key in participating in that sort of a webinar. So feel free to share that. Stay tuned for details. CABE CAPS convention, November 17th and 18th at the Mystic Marriott. It's a great opportunity. As you all, I'm preaching to the choir, and I know that. Great opportunity for learning and networking. CABE's Delegate Assembly is the 16th of November, so the Wednesday before the convention starts. Another great opportunity. Of course, only one person in your district will be able to vote, and then in some of the larger districts, there are multiple votes. But it's a great opportunity to hear the conversation and how the association determines what the priorities will be for the upcoming year. Let's see. December 18th at 11, we have a webinar that Sheila is doing on, I believe this one is the board's role in advocacy. No, it's not. So that's January. But anyway, those are the upcoming things. December 6th is our new board member leadership training. Really key, as you all know, to have your new board members there, but it's a great opportunity for new board members to go with more seasoned board members of the superintendent who can participate in the leadership track. So it's a great opportunity to spend a little bit of time away from the table. And Will Marie is letting me know that yes, indeed, December 18th is the board's role in advocacy as we start to head into the legislative session. So
I think oh, it's January 24th. Thank you, Wilmarie. So Boards Role in Advocacy, January 24th. As you can see, I'm focused more on December 17th and 18th right now than anything else. So one last thing, I would love if any of you have ideas of how we can make professional development more attractive to those who you were saying it's difficult to get them engaged with professional development, that sort of thing. I would love to talk with you, have conversations so that we can maybe better meet the needs of your board members, which in turn are really meeting your whole board's needs. So please feel free to reach out. Those, as Patrice said earlier in the meeting, to those of you out campaigning and running for re-election, we wish you the best. For those of you who have served and are not running for re-election, thank you so very, very much for your service to the children in your community, as well as those across the state. With that, we hope to see you November 17th at the in-person board chair check-in at the convention. Until then, stay well and look forward to seeing you all soon.